Hungry
Welcome to Hungry
Dads.
Dads, your guided tour through the delicate and often overwhelming balancing act between food indulgences and social acceptance. And now, as always, here are your hosts, Rod Budget and Hugh Gallen.
Welcome to this week's show. I'm going to jump right into a segment that we haven't done before, but I'm going to call it Fringe of the Menus. And going forward, I think I've always been kind of a menu nerd. I've always been interested in things on menus. For example, I often wonder what's the least ordered item on a particular menu. Like at a fast food restaurant, I'm like, who's ordering this or that? That's not what I'm going to talk about tonight, but I think that's an example of what a fringe of the menu topic would be. So with that, I'm going to lay the ground rules and explain my methodology for tonight's segment. I narrowed an analysis down to fast food establishments whose menus are founded in burgers, so burger joints. Some of them have extensive menus beyond burgers, but they all sell burgers as a main staple of their menus. Trying to compare the, nutrition across all fast food categories becomes troublesome because there's a gray area in how big of a serving someone is eating when they say fried chicken or pizza. So it's easier just to go with burgers. And I'm looking for the least healthy food item on these menus.
Wow, there's been a lot of activity in the Hungry Dad's laboratory with you crunching all these numbers. I'm impressed.
Yeah, that's a good lead in to my methodology. So, first of all, where did I draw the line? I consulted the QSR.com 2013 rankings of the top 50 QSR restaurants in America. QSR stands for Quick Service Restaurant, for those who don't know. Ranked by overall sales. So out of these, there were a dozen who fit into the burger category, so that's where the dozen come from. I then analyzed the nutritional information via their websites and found the least healthy menu item based on the following scoring system. Calories are weighted at 40% because that's kind of an all-encompassing first thing people generally look at, so that's a little more important. And then 20% each for fat content, saturated fat, and carbs, because those are kind of the other three things that people are kind of looking at. And I just want to reiterate, as we often do on the show, this exercise is neither to condemn or condone these food items. It's sheer morbid curiosity on my part. What is the least healthy food item in America based on this criteria? So some additional notes on the methodology before I reveal my findings. I excluded breakfast items because not all these places serve breakfast. Otherwise, there are some breakfast items that would have cracked the top 10. I didn't include 20-piece chicken nuggets because I determined those are probably not intended for one person, even though I eat 20 and I know people who do. I figured it's kind of the same reasoning behind excluding a place like KFC, because obviously a bucket of chicken would be the worst possible thing, but we're assuming that more than one person's eating a bucket of chicken. And finally, I didn't include desserts, shakes, or ice cream beverages, kind of for the same reason. Not all these places serve them. Some serve them more than others. So burgers is kind of the common denominator where we can make a fair comparison.
Okay, so I get that you excluded breakfast, you excluded shakes, and desserts. I get that sandwich items would be on the table. Are side orders, are they part of the analysis?
Side orders are on the table. Burgers, of course. Anything else, really, that I didn't include. But salads obviously aren't going to make it. But if there was a crazy menu item out there that didn't really fit into a category but was still kind of a main course or a side item, it would have made the list. So, Hugh, would you care to guess? If you can guess the actual item, I will be forever impressed. But if you can guess the restaurant, I think that would be pretty impressive as well. Do you care to take some guesses?
I know that Hardee's / Carl's Jr. made a big effort at having, I think it was called a monster burger once upon a time, and they very much pushed the cheese dripping off and the multiple sauces and the size of the burger. So I'm going to say a Hardee's Carl's Jr. as the establishment that might take the top spot.
This man is an absolute professional. The least healthiest food item of any burger quick service restaurant is the 2/3 pound monster thick burger from Hardee's.
I'm even impressed with myself there, honestly.
That is impressive because it was relatively close. The second least healthiest is the Supersonic Bacon Double Cheeseburger from Sonic, which Calorie-wise is a little less, and fat-wise is a little bit less. But the Monster Thick Burger wins in basically all categories except carbs. And carbs is pretty much stemming just from the buns, so a burger with a bigger bun is going to have more carbs.
I am just going to say my accuracy there. I'm going to give less credit to myself and more credit to something we talk about a lot here, which is marketing. They marketed that thing as the least healthy, the greasiest, thing. And that obviously, that message got to me. So again, I'll credit, I'm sure what they intended to have happen was to get the reputation as the all-time worst. And it turns out statistically they are.
Yeah, that's a good point, because as I was asking the question, I thought, this is going to be tough. I don't think he's going to get it. But then when you started describing the commercial and the marketing, I was like, oh yeah, they did basically promote that as just being the biggest and baddest thing out there. So,
and as we've discussed multiple times before, I'm clearly very susceptible to that marketing message. Check out our Double Down episode if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yes. A couple of takeaways, kind of big picture takeaways from analyzing the data that I thought were interesting, aside from just the least healthy burger. And by the way, I will post this on our website at hungrydads.com, so you'll be able to see the top 12 here. But I found it very interesting that the second quote-unquote healthiest or least unhealthy establishment in their burgers is McDonald's. And it's interesting because when people kind of vilify fast food, McDonald's is generally the thing that comes up first.
They're the poster boy.
Supersize me, things like that. But I think it's just because, they're the biggest kid on the block and they've been around for a long time. So it's kind of a lazy, easy way out of saying, oh, McDonald's is terrible, they're fast food villains. But the least healthy item on their menu is a bacon clubhouse burger with 740 calories and 42 grams of fat, which isn't great, but in my analysis, that is the second healthiest, least healthy burger. I think if you think about it, McDonald's hasn't kind of gone out of the way to do the crazy big cheeseburger, 3 slices of meat.
Yeah, McDonald's, from a marketing standpoint, I think they've realized they can't afford to do that. Meanwhile, your second and third place guys, the Hardee's, even Burger King, they have certainly embraced the idea of expressing how unhealthy things are. But there's a target right on McDonald's back, so they've been smart to actually send a message to the opposite. I see them making their Happy Meals quote unquote healthier and offering other options. In my opinion, just so they can say they do. They don't actually expect to sell them, but they've got the same lawsuits hunting them down that the tobacco companies did 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, and I think also that these kind of, when you're the smaller kind of niche challenger brand, you can do more, you can get away with more, and I think they're intentionally, no, McDonald's can't do this, so they're intentionally taking advantage of it and kind of carving out their niche of being the unhealthy, we don't care about nutrition, guys, burger. Which kind of leads to my second overall big point in that actually the rankings are very close for a lot of these. Once you get, beyond the first few, it gets kind of very close. So I feel like they all kind of know where to draw the line and they've kind of stopped there, or there's literally like a point where this is the, you make a really, really big burger and they all...
Saturation point.
The saturation point,
things.
Literally, the saturated fat point, all kind of shakes out in about the same place. Like I said, the Hardee's Monster Thick Burger was a little bit worse than the rest, kind of in its own little category, but then you have, Dairy Queen, Jack in the Box, Wendy's, Whataburger, Burger King, Steak and Shake, Sonic. It's kind of all in the same category of unhealthiness.
Now, what on the list of the items you represented I'm going to assume, was bacon a prominent feature on a lot of these? Bacon
was indeed a prominent feature. It really ups the saturated fat content.
Right. That's a really interesting assessment, and I think the thing to key in, the most interesting thing was how close they all were, and I'd be curious to know if it was a physical limitation, a scientific limitation, or some sort of decision of which, look, this is either what the market can withstand or the human body can withstand, because it does kind of make sense. Obviously, portion sizes do have to have a limit to be considered somewhat reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, maybe somebody listening out there has the answer to that or has some insight. Shoot us an email or a tweet at hungry_dads, and yeah, we'd love to get to the bottom of it.
I'm just curious, when you saw the raw numbers for the calorie count specifically, let's just talk about that. Maybe the fat too. Were they shocking to you in any way? Did they seem surprising, or did you have any context within to have an understanding of what that meant?
As I've gotten older and kind of the dad portion is starting to take over more, I've noted calorie counts and saturated fat, so I kind of had an idea. I'd say the calories were pretty in line with what I expected, but the fat kind of jumped out at me. For example, the Monster Thick Burger has 95 grams of fat, and
wow,
yeah, that's some serious fat content.
That's a genuine wow.
Calories are 1330, which is obviously exorbitant. It's a lot, but it's the least healthy thing out there. And I figured, we would be looking at 1,000 to 1,500 calories.
Yeah, it's interesting. The calorie counts kind of weren't jarring to me, and I think it's because where I live here in New York, there actually is a requirement that the chains post the calorie count in the same font as the price. Now, is that something you experience where you live?
I do occasionally, but I don't believe it's a requirement. I believe it's voluntary. And I never knew it was the same font. That's interesting. But I knew in New York City that they were required to post the calorie counts. So as I mentioned, I will post the complete analysis, the chart, breaking down all of the scores on our website. So check it out.
Hungry Dad.
Okay, so now Hugh's going to jump in with a segment, and he actually did not tell me what the name of the segment was going to be. So I'm on the edge of my seat here. Go ahead, Hugh.
Thanks, Rod. So tonight I'm going to do a segment, and at first I was just going to, as I've done many times, call it the Food for Thought segment. And one of the things about getting prepared for this podcast every week is, believe it or not, as I come up with my topic, I actually almost every time sit and try to think of some clever title, some pun or something funny to call my segment. And almost every week I realize it's kind of ridiculous, and I fall back on Food for Thought. This week I'm going to go for my idea that is absolutely too clever for its own good and more than a little bit silly. Here's the segment for tonight. Dieting with deities. Let me say that again. Dieting with deities. And what I want to talk about tonight, believe it or not, is fasting. And the reason I think that a hungry dad needs to talk about this is because I, in fact, was a hungry dad this weekend. What do you know about fasting, Rod? I mean, when I talk about fasting, do you have any connotations that come up?
I don't know too much about fasting. I know it means not consuming food or water or both, generally for religious purposes. But beyond that, that's really the limit of my knowledge.
Right, and so as it's funny because when we decided to do this podcast and we talked about what we wanted to talk about, I was very pleased that we decided to focus on food because I thought, what an easy topic, a non-controversial topic. And then as last week we talked about soda and we ended up getting kind of into some politics, and now suddenly I'm finding myself getting into religion. Food is ubiquitous. I think it can't be avoided. That said, I'm not interested in really talking about religion, but I did want to talk about fasting real quick. And let me just start off by saying, and I truly mean this, I think fasting is a very noble and interesting experience, and lots of different cultures and lots of different religions do it. It's done for atonement, disciplinary, kind of personal discipline, honoring the past, maybe pride, or just culturally done. And the reason I bring it up and how I experienced it was Mrs. Gallen, my wife, is actually Jewish. I'm not Jewish, but I've married a Jewish woman and have Jewish in-laws. This last weekend was Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur traditionally is a time of fasting. And just as a little bit of insight, my culturally mixed family is not a touchy topic with myself or my in-laws or anything. They're obviously progressive enough where their son-in-law's not Jewish and I'm not converting anytime soon. So it's not a touchy issue. But when we go to visit them over Yom Kippur, they're all fasting. And the question that I ask myself, and I'm literally asked, is, are you going to fast as well? And
Wow.
I'll say, and I say this genuinely from my in-laws, there's no pressure or expectation to do so. There truly is not. That said, well, let me ask you, if you were in that situation, Rod, do you think you would be fasting or would you not fast?
I would likely be fasting to be supportive, mainly to my wife, because it's similar to, well, it's not similar to, I shouldn't make light, and it's not making light, but when my wife is pregnant, she can't have a glass of wine or drink, and I, being supportive, don't drink in front of her or have wine or anything like that. So I imagine it's probably, challenging for not only your wife but your in-laws to go through the day without eating. So I would fast just because it's a no-win situation. I mean, you're either going to be hungry all day or you're going to be the guy stuffing his face in front of everyone saying, wow, this is delicious.
That's exactly right, and that's the decision I've made. There was a very great effect to it, especially early on when I was first dating and visiting, was that I won significant brownie points for doing the fasting. I'd be asked, are you going to fast? And I say, absolutely. And I was actually kind of interested in it. I thought it was an interesting challenge. I think there is kind of regardless of your religion, there's, is a discipline, kind of a challenging yourself aspect to it that I kind of enjoyed.
Yeah, I should probably try it sometime for more than 3 hours. It would be interesting to see.
And so early on, I definitely got kind of brownie points for doing it, and I ate that up. I was dating, her and wanted to impress the family, so anything I could do to make myself more well liked, and fasting was a relatively easy thing to do. This year, I ended up being home by myself or with our infant son while everyone else went out, and I was presented with an opportunity to get something to eat without anybody watching.
A true covert eating opportunity.
It really is the core of a
covert
eating. It's exactly what we've talked about. Now, I'm kind of gone through the testing phase with my in-laws. I'm confirmed. I'm in. They like me. I don't need brownie points anymore. I truly respect the religion and the day, but at the same time, one of my reasons for fasting was I'm not going to just chow on a cheeseburger while no one else is eating. Rod, let me ask you, would you fast? Would you eat when no one is watching?
I would almost certainly eat when no one is watching, provided it was a genuine covert opportunity where I felt like I could cover my tracks and 99% sure that I wouldn't be caught. I almost certainly would eat.
Okay, you and I are going step by step here. This year is exactly what I did, and I think honestly in past years I think I probably have as well. But this year I quickly assessed my situation once I was alone at my in-laws and was able to determine what I could take an opportunity with and what I couldn't. And it was pretty obvious. There were things like bags of chips and crackers and things that I could partake in without being noticed. There was an apple pie that was very tempting, but a slice of pie, three slices left, obviously was going to be noticed.
Yeah, that pie was earmarked for sure.
And it's the kind of thing that would be noticed. And again, I have to just remind everyone of two caveats. My in-laws are lovely. They don't actually care. I'm the one who cares. For all they care, I could eat all day long and there would be no judgment whatsoever. But for me, it became the need to make it a covert eating opportunity. So I did. I partook in something to eat while no one was watching, and then immediately came across a mild sense of concern because I knew they would return, and up till that point, no one had asked me, oh, are you going to fast this year? So I started anticipating the question, and then I had to ask myself, am I going to lie or am I going to tell the truth? So, Rod, presented in that situation, if you were asked at that point, would you lie or would you tell the truth?
Wow. I would, if they asked me point blank, I would tell the truth because I know that they don't really care deep down. So I wouldn't offer the information, but if they asked me to my face, I would tell the truth.
Well, that is exactly what I did, but with a big asterisk. My mother-in-law came back and very innocuously asked, are you going to fast? And I responded, have you seen me eat anything? And my wife, of course, started cracking up because she knows that me alone, regardless of fasting or anything else, if I'm alone in a house with a kitchen and no one's around, I'm foraging right away. So my dear mother-in-law either didn't care enough or didn't think enough to ask any follow-up questions, and we moved along. But suffice to say, the fasting, it really is, and I'm not just saying this, it's kind of a lovely tradition, I think, and I did find it valuable when I partook it in the past years, just as kind of a sense of pride and belonging. And this year, this is the first year I think I've kind of just secretly stomped all over it, and I'm a little ashamed, actually.
Hungry Dad.
So I'm going to finish up tonight with kind of a hybrid segment. It's kind of a quick food review and a food for thought all rolled into one. So I tried the A1 Ultimate Bacon Cheeseburger at Burger King this week. Hugh, are you familiar with this, or have you tried one yourself?
I haven't tried it. I can't say I've even seen any ads for it, but I can certainly imagine what it is.
Yeah, it's what it sounds like. So I'm just going to give a quick review because I don't want to go into full review mode because I don't think it's unique enough for that. But it was tasty. I enjoyed it. There were raw onions on it, which I didn't like so much. I would have preferred the onions to have been sautéed. It would have kind of gone better with the bacon and the sauce. But I think I will get it again if given the opportunity. So it was a good solid burger, no doubt about it. But I did find a couple of things interesting about the A1 Ultimate Bacon Cheeseburger. So first of all, this is the first time I can recall a licensed condiment deal with a food restaurant and an outside condiment. I know Doritos has the taco shells with Taco Bell. I believe Jimmy Dean has like sausages for breakfast at one of the establishments. But I found it interesting that A1 was kind of the only condiment I can think of that has a licensed deal with a restaurant. Is there anything you can think of?
No, I can't. I mean, I was trying to imagine if A1 ever happened before. The only thing that came to my mind was not at a fast food restaurant, but like I don't know if it's Fridays or whatever. They had the Jack Daniel's chicken and the Jack Daniel's sauce.
Yeah,
which is similar, I think, but not exactly the same thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. That didn't come into my mind. It's a little different because I was thinking more like you don't see a Hellman's mayonnaise burger at, Wendy's, for example, or French's mustard. So it got me to thinking about steak sauce. Hugh, do you have an opinion of steak sauce?
I do, and it's not necessarily the most politically correct or the most popular one. I like. It's a controversial, probably unpopular view. I love steak sauce. I think it's delicious, and I like it so much that I've probably even ruined delicious steaks, well-prepared steaks, by dipping them in steak sauce. And I understand the argument that it's a waste and that it ruins good steak, but I enjoy it.
I think that's fair, and I think that's kind of where I was going. Personally, I love steak sauce on burgers. I think it's underused outside of the steak world. I think it's called steak sauce, but like you said, it's kind of got this negative connotation of if you use it on a nice steak, then you're not a real foodie or you're ruining the steak. I'm from Texas. Certainly a lot of people back there would choke you, my dad being one of them, if you put steak
Rightfully
sauce.
so.
Yes, of course.
I've met Mr. Budget, and I believe that's something he might choke me over.
He's a passionate man about his steaks and his steak sauces. I enjoy it on burgers quite a bit, so I wonder why it's kind of never made that migration, and maybe it's starting to happen. Because if I have it around the house, I will put it on a burger that I cook on the grill or just around the house. But like you said, I don't use it on steaks. I don't judge those who do, but I prefer, if it's a good steak, I prefer eating it without any sauce. So that's kind of where I was going. I was just wondering why steak sauce never really made it to the whole burger world, because I like it on it. I know a lot of people who like it on it, and maybe it's just that it, started as steak sauce and it's called steak sauce, so that transition's never really happened. So the A1 burger kind of got me thinking about that and gives me hope that maybe steak sauce will become more mainstream with more burgers.
I kind of think you're working on a pipe dream there, Rod, and I don't want to burst your bubble. But I think when people think of burgers, they have their condiments already set out. I think steak sauce is an interesting dalliance when you're having a burger, but I can't say I would go to steak sauce as a standard in replacement of ketchup or even a barbecue sauce. And I think the difference is, and again, I'm a steak sauce fan, but there's a sweetness that you get with a ketchup or a barbecue sauce that we've grown accustomed to on our burgers and with our fries, and it might come into our addiction of corn syrup and the sweetness of that comes with those things. But a steak sauce doesn't offer that.
Well, there's no sweetness in mustard or mayonnaise, and a lot of people enjoy those as well. I will admit that, there are some long-standing condiments on burgers. So it's a tough category to break into. You got your mayo, your mustard, your ketchup is the three big ones. But I think you made my point for me in that barbecue sauce has kind of made its way into the burger world, and it's called barbecue sauce and traditionally was used just for barbecue, and now it's kind of a little more mainstream in burgers. So I think, why not steak sauce? I know it's not sweet, but not everything has to be sweet.
I think you stumped me with your not everything has to be sweet argument. For your sake, I hope it works. I just don't see it happening.
Hungry Dads.
So I'd like to wrap up tonight by thanking Ann and Kathy from Rochester, New York. They sent us a interesting picture of a menu from the Finger Lakes region of New York when they were having a nice lunch at Lloyd's Limited, which I guess is a restaurant or a pub. Sounds like an auction house to me. But the picture of the menu, they offer something called potato salad fries, which I'm not sure what that is. Hugh, have you ever heard of something like this? Have you run across potato salad fries?
No, I haven't. When I first saw the email, I had pictured French fry potato salad, which would be potato salad, but instead of the potatoes that are chopped up in potato salad, it was French fries chopped up into that potato salad. Now that you're describing it again as potato salad fries, now I'm imagining fries.
Yeah, I'm thinking literally they make normal potato salad and then put it in the deep fryer. That's what I was picturing. So maybe they're like celery bits or onions or whatever else is in potato salad in the French fries.
This is a tough one for me because I'm not a fan of potato salad. Now, again, I will say this. Whatever it is, I'm guessing it's a step up from potato salad in my mind. I'm not a fan of potato salad because I've found, in my opinion, the potatoes in potato salad are too often undercooked. And so when I imagine frying them either before it becomes potato salad or after it becomes potato salad, the whole idea becomes much more attractive to me. So let me think. If I saw that on a menu, would I be compelled to order it? I think I would be. If I were with someone, I'd say, let's order this and share it to give it a try. So I'm intrigued. I am. I definitely would be ordering that.
I would certainly give it a chance. I'm curious if it's even what we're picturing, but I can't think of what else it would be. Hungry Dads. Visit our website at hungrydads.com. Follow us on Twitter at hungry_dads.